The lace of my wedding veil scratched against my neck as I stared at my reflection in the cathedral's antechamber mirror. White silk clung to curves I'd grown to resent over the past month, ever since my father had announced my fate over dinner like he was discussing the weather. "You'll marry Alessio Moretti. It's done." Done. As if I were a business transaction, which I suppose I was. My hands trembled as I adjusted the diamond choker around my throat. A gift from the groom. The stones were flawless, cold against my skin, heavy with meaning I didn't want to decode. Behind me, my mother fussed with the train of my dress, her silence louder than any words. She knew what I was walking into. We all did. "Valentina." Her voice cracked on my name. "You look beautiful. Beautiful." The word felt like ash in my mouth. I looked like a sacrifice dressed in Valentino, and we both knew it. Through the heavy wooden doors, I could hear the organ beginning its processional hymn. 300 guests waited in those pews. Crime families from across the country, judges whose robes hid dirty hands, politicians who smiled while blood stained their shoes. This wasn't a wedding. It was a coronation. And I was the crown Alessio Moretti would wear to legitimize his ascension to the throne his father had left behind. "It's time," my father announced, appearing in the doorway. His tuxedo was impeccable, his expression carved from granite. He offered his arm, and I took it because I had no choice. I'd stopped having choices the moment the Russo family's gambling debts had spiraled beyond what we could pay. The Morettis had offered a solution. Me. The doors swung open, and every head turned. The cathedral was magnificent in the way only old money could create, all soaring ceilings and stained glass that painted the marble floors in jewel tones. Roses lined every pew, their scent cloying, suffocating. And at the end of that impossibly long aisle stood Alessio Moretti. Even from this distance he commanded attention. Tall, broad-shouldered in a black tuxedo that probably cost more than my college education. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved by Michelangelo if Michelangelo had specialized in predators. His eyes found mine across the distance, gray as storm clouds, cold as winter steel. I'd met him exactly 3 times before today. Once at the engagement announcement, where he'd looked at me like I was a particularly uninteresting painting he'd been forced to purchase. Once at a family dinner, where he'd spoken perhaps 10 words to me, all of them clipped and dismissive. And once 2 weeks ago for the wedding rehearsal, where he'd gripped my hand during the practice vows hard enough to leave marks. "Don't embarrass me tomorrow," he'd whispered, his breath hot against my ear. "Smile. Say your lines. Play your part." As if I were an actress in his personal production, rather than a woman being sold into marriage. My father's grip tightened on my arm as we began the walk down the aisle. Each step felt like descending into darkness despite the cathedral's bright lights. Faces blurred past me. Valentina's uncle Marco, who'd tried to warn my father this alliance would cost more than money. Alessio's capos, men whose names I'd memorized because knowing who held power might someday save my life. And there, in the front row, Raffaella Moretti, Alessio's stepmother. Her expression unreadable behind a black lace veil. Something about the way she watched me made my skin crawl. But I'd chalked it up to the general wrongness of this entire situation. I was marrying her stepson. Awkwardness was to be expected. We reached the altar. My father placed my hand in Alessio's, and I fought not to flinch at the contact. His palm was warm, calloused in unexpected places, his grip firm enough to make it clear I couldn't pull away even if I tried. "Dearly beloved," Father Giuseppe began, his voice echoing off the vaulted ceiling. I tried to focus on his words, tried to ground myself in the familiar cadence of the ceremony. But all I could feel was Alessio's thumb tracing a slow circle on the back of my hand, a gesture that might have seemed tender to anyone watching but felt more like a brand. "Mine," that touch said. "You're mine now." The ceremony proceeded with agonizing slowness. Readings I didn't hear, prayers I couldn't focus on. And then Father Giuseppe was asking for the rings, and Alessio's best man, a mountain of a man named Marco, who I was fairly certain had killed people with his bare hands, was stepping forward with the velvet cushion. "Alessio Moretti," Father Giuseppe intoned, "do you take Valentina Russo to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do you part?" Alessio's eyes met mine, and for just a moment, I thought I saw something flicker in their depths. Not warmth exactly, but acknowledgement, recognition that we were both trapped in this moment, bound by forces larger than ourselves. "I do," he said, his voice carrying across the cathedral with absolute certainty. Then it was my turn. Father Giuseppe repeated the vows, and I opened my mouth to speak, to seal my fate with two simple words. That's when the west entrance exploded. The sound was deafening, a percussion that shook the ancient stones and sent the stained glass rattling in its frames. Screams erupted from the pews. People dove for cover, and through the smoke and debris that now filled the cathedral's entrance, figures emerged, men in black tactical gear, faces hidden behind masks, weapons raised. "Nobody move!" The command came from the largest of them, his accent thick with the vowels of southern Italy. "Alessio Moretti, you're coming with us." Everything happened at once. Alessio's hand left mine, reaching inside his jacket where I knew he kept a gun. Marco and the other groomsmen were already moving, weapons appearing from nowhere. And the guests, 300 supposed pillars of society, were shouting, scrambling, revealing themselves for what they truly were, criminals caught off guard. I stood frozen at the altar, my white dress a beacon, my mind unable to process what was happening. This was supposed to be a wedding, boring, binding, but safe. Weddings were safe. "Valentina, get down!" Alessio's voice cut through my paralysis, and then his hand was on my shoulder, pushing me toward the floor with enough force to knock the breath from my lungs. I hit the marble hard, my dress tangling around my legs, my veil tearing free. Above me, the cathedral erupted in gunfire. The sound was nothing like movies had prepared me for. It was sharper, louder, each shot a physical assault on my eardrums. Someone was screaming. It took me a moment to realize it was me. Alessio crouched over me, his body a shield, one hand pressed to my back while the other held his gun steady. He fired 3 shots in rapid succession, and somewhere in the chaos, a man cried out. "Marco!" Alessio shouted over the din. "West exit, now." "Too many of them, boss." "I don't care, move." Strong hands grabbed my arms, hauling me to my feet. I stumbled, my heels slipping on the now dusty marble, and would have fallen if Alessio hadn't caught me against his chest. "Listen to me," he said, his face inches from mine, close enough that I could see gold flecks in those storm-gray eyes. "Do exactly as I say. When I move, you move. Don't think. Don't hesitate. Just follow. Understand?" I nodded because my voice had stopped working somewhere between the explosion and the gunfire. "Good girl." His hand found mine, gripping so tightly I felt bones grind. "Now run." We ran. The cathedral blurred around us. Alessio pulled me through the chaos, past overturned pews and cowering guests, past men locked in combat, past bodies I tried not to look at too closely. My dress caught on something and tore with a sound that seemed obscenely loud, but I didn't stop. Behind us, someone shouted in Italian. "Don't let them reach the cars." More gunfire. A bullet struck the column next to my head, sending marble shards flying. I felt one slice across my cheek, felt blood begin to trickle down, hot against my skin. "Keep moving." Alessio's voice was the only anchor I had in the madness. We burst through a side door into blinding sunlight. The street outside was chaos. Black SUVs blocked both ends of the narrow road, more masked men pouring from them. Our wedding cars, white Maseratis wrapped in ribbons that now seemed like a sick joke, were boxed in. "This way!" Marco appeared beside us, blood streaming from a cut above his eye. He gestured toward an alley between buildings. Alessio didn't hesitate. He pulled me after him, our footsteps echoing off brick walls. My lungs burned. My feet screamed in protest. But I ran because the alternative was capture, and I'd seen enough in Alessio's face to know that whatever these men wanted, it would end in blood. The alley opened onto a broader street. For one blessed moment, I thought we might have lost them. Then tires squealed, and another black SUV came around the corner, heading straight for us. Alessio pushed me against the wall, his body covering mine as the vehicle screeched to a halt. The doors flew open. Men emerged, guns raised. "Nowhere left to run, Moretti," the leader said, lowering his mask to reveal a face I didn't recognize. Scarred, weathered, cruel. "The Don wants to talk to you, and he doesn't take no for an answer." "Tell the Don," Alessio said, his voice deadly calm despite our situation, "that he can go straight to hell." The man laughed. Brave words from a dead man. His eyes slid to me, and something hungry entered his expression. "And who's this? The blushing bride? Shame you didn't get to finish the ceremony. She's a pretty little thing." Alessio's arm shifted, putting himself more completely between me and their gazes. The gesture was possessive, protective, surprising in its intensity. "You don't get to look at her," he said quietly. "You don't get to talk about her. Touch her, and I'll kill you with my bare hands." Big threats for a man with 5 guns pointed at his head. "Try me." The standoff held for a heartbeat. 2. Then everything exploded into motion again. But this time I didn't run. This time I reached down, grabbed the knife I'd felt against Alessio's ankle when he'd covered me, and threw it at the nearest attacker. The blade sank into the man's thigh. He went down screaming, and in the chaos that followed, Alessio moved like death itself. I'd underestimated him. We all had. This wasn't just some mobster playing at power. This was a trained killer who'd been holding back, waiting for his moment. He disarmed the first man with brutal efficiency, used the stolen gun to drop 2 more, and had the leader in a chokehold before anyone could react. "Marco," Alessio called, his voice steady despite the violence. "Car, now." A gray sedan came screeching around the corner, Marco at the wheel. Alessio shoved me toward it, keeping the leader as a human shield. Bullets pinged off the car's frame as I dove into the back seat. Alessio followed, still dragging his hostage. The car was moving before the door closed. "Drive," Alessio ordered, even as he put his gun to the leader's head. "Who sent you? Was it the Castellanos? The Russos?" The man laughed, blood bubbling from his lips. "You have no idea how deep this goes, do you? How many people want you dead? Your own family, Moretti? Your own—" The shot was deafening in the confined space. The man slumped, dead before he could finish his sentence. I stared at Alessio in horror, at the blood now splattered across his white shirt, at the cold calculation in his eyes. "He knew too much," Alessio said simply, as if he'd just swatted a fly. Then his gaze found mine, and something shifted in his expression. "You're bleeding." My hand went to my cheek, came away red. "It's nothing, just a scratch." "Nothing." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Valentina, we just got ambushed at our own wedding, shot at by professionals. This isn't nothing. This is war." "War," I repeated numbly. "What kind of war?" His jaw tightened. "The kind where everyone you trust wants you dead." Marco drove like a man possessed through narrow streets I didn't recognize, taking turns that made the sedan's tires shriek in protest. In the back seat, I pressed myself against the door, trying to create distance between myself and Alessio, trying to process what had just happened. My wedding had exploded. Literally. Men had died. I'd thrown a knife at someone. And the man I'd been about to marry had executed his captive without hesitation, spattering blood across the interior of this car like it was Tuesday. "Where are we going?" My voice came out smaller than I intended. "Somewhere safe," Alessio replied, already on his phone, barking orders in rapid Italian. "No, I don't care about the guests. Get the family heads to the compound. Yes, all of them. Tell them it's not a request." He ended the call and immediately dialed another number. Through the windshield, I watched the city slide past, everything normal out there while my world had just shattered like the cathedral's stained glass. "Raffaella," Alessio said into the phone, and I tensed at the name. His stepmother. "Are you safe?" "Good. Stay at the hotel. Don't go near the cathedral." "I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out." He paused, listening. "Yes, she's with me. She's fine." Was I fine? I looked down at my hands, saw them trembling, saw blood under my fingernails that wasn't mine. My wedding dress was torn and filthy. My feet screamed from running in heels I'd lost somewhere between the altar and the alley. Fine seemed like a generous interpretation. "Boss," Marco called from the front seat, his eyes on the rearview mirror. "We've got a tail. Black Mercedes, 2 cars back." Alessio's jaw tightened. Lose them. What followed was the most terrifying 10 minutes of my life. Marco wove through traffic with surgical precision, taking turns that defied physics, accelerating through intersections that made me close my eyes and pray. Behind us, the Mercedes kept pace, relentless. "They're persistent," Marco growled. "Professional." "Then be more professional," Alessio replied, reloading his gun with practiced ease. He glanced at me, and something flickered in his expression. "Valentina, there's a vest under the front seat. Put it on." I fumbled beneath Marco's seat, found the bulletproof vest, and struggled to pull it over my dress. Alessio reached over, his hands surprisingly gentle as he adjusted the straps, tightening them until the vest sat properly against my torso. "If shooting starts," he said, his face inches from mine, "you get down. You make yourself as small as possible, understand?" I nodded, unable to find words. "Say it." "I understand." "Good." His thumb brushed across my cheek, wiping away blood. The gesture was oddly tender, at odds with everything else about this nightmare. "You did well back there. The knife. Quick thinking." "I grew up with 3 brothers," I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. "They taught me to fight dirty." Something that might have been approval crossed his face. "Remind me to thank them, if we survive this." The Mercedes was gaining ground. I could see figures in the back seat now, faces hidden behind dark glasses, weapons visible through the tinted windows. "They're going to shoot," Marco warned. "I know." Alessio rolled down his window, leaned out with his gun raised. "When I say go, hard left." "Boss! Now!" Marco wrenched the wheel. The sedan fishtailed, tires smoking, and for a heart-stopping moment I thought we'd flip. Then we were straightening out, and Alessio was firing, 3 shots in rapid succession that struck the Mercedes' windshield. The pursuing car swerved, clipped a parked vehicle, and spun out. We didn't stop to see if they recovered. "How much further?" Alessio asked, sliding back into the car. 5 minutes. The safe house on Via Dante. I'd never heard of Via Dante, which meant it was probably in one of the neighborhoods tourists didn't visit. The parts of the city where Moretti influence ran deep, where questions weren't asked and strangers were noted. We pulled into an underground garage, the door closing behind us with finality. Marco killed the engine, and suddenly the silence was deafening. My ears rang from the gunfire, My hands wouldn't stop shaking. "Come on," Alessio said, already out of the car. "We need to move." I fumbled with the door handle, my fingers clumsy. Alessio appeared, pulling it open, offering his hand. I stared at it for a moment, at the blood still staining his knuckles, at the gold ring he wore on his pinky finger, some family sigil I didn't recognize. "Valentina." His voice was softer now. "I know you're in shock. I know this is beyond anything you expected, but I need you to keep it together just a little longer. Can you do that?" Could I? I wasn't sure. But I placed my hand in his anyway, let him pull me from the car, let him guide me toward a door at the back of the garage. The safe house was sparse. One bedroom, a bathroom, a living area with furniture that had seen better days, windows covered with heavy curtains. No personal touches, a place meant for hiding, not living. "Sit," Alessio ordered, pointing to the sofa. "Marco, check the perimeter. Make sure we weren't followed." Marco disappeared, leaving us alone. Alessio moved to a cabinet, pulled out a first aid kit, and crossed back to me. He knelt, bringing himself to eye level, and gently turned my face toward the light. "This needs cleaning," he said, his fingers feather-light on my jaw. "It's going to sting." The antiseptic burned, but I bit back the hiss. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me weak, not after everything. "Who were they?" I asked as he worked. "Those men at the cathedral." "Mercenaries, well-trained, well-equipped." He applied a butterfly bandage to my cheek. "Someone paid a lot of money to ruin my wedding day." "Your wedding day?" The words came out sharper than I intended. "I was there too, remember? I'm the one who got dragged into this." His hands stilled. Those gray eyes met mine, and I saw surprise in them. As if he'd forgotten I was a person, not just a pawn in whatever game he was playing. "You're right," he said quietly. "I'm sorry. Our wedding day." The apology was so unexpected I didn't know how to respond. Alessio Moretti didn't strike me as a man who apologized often. Why would someone want to stop the wedding? I pressed. "What does it matter to them?" He sat back on his heels, studying me. "Because our marriage wasn't just about joining two families. It was about consolidating power. With the Russos behind me, I become untouchable. The other families know that. Some of them don't like it. So they tried to kill you." "They tried to kill me," he agreed. "And they would have taken you too, collateral damage. Or worse." His expression darkened. "The way that bastard looked at you. If he'd gotten his hands on you." But he didn't. I cut him off, not wanting to think about what might have happened. "Because you stopped him. I protected what's mine." There it was again. That possessiveness I'd felt during the ceremony, the way he'd positioned his body between me and danger without hesitation. "I'm not yours," I said, meeting his gaze steadily. The wedding didn't finish. We never said "I do." Alessio's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Semantics, Valentina. You wore my ring. You walked down that aisle. You stood at that altar and were about to bind yourself to me before God and 300 witnesses. In every way that matters, you're mine. That's not how it works. In my world, it is." He stood, towering over me. "And like it or not, you're in my world now. Those men saw you with me. They know your face, your name. Even if you ran, even if you tried to go back to your family, you'd be a target." The reality of his words hit me like a physical blow. He was right. I'd been marked the moment my father accepted Alessio's proposal. There was no going back. So what now? My voice sounded hollow. "We just hide here until..." "What? This blows over?" "Until I find out who ordered the hit." His phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression hardening. "And then I make them pay." Marco returned, shaking his head. Clean. Nobody followed us. Good. Call Luca. I want eyes on every family head. I want to know where they were during the ceremony, what they're doing now, who they're talking to. You think it was an inside job? Marco asked. I think someone knew exactly when and where to strike. Someone with access to our security plans, our schedules. Alessio's hands clenched into fists. Someone close. I thought about the faces I'd seen in that cathedral. My own family, Alessio's capos, Raffaella, watching from the front row. Any of them could have betrayed him. All of them had motive. What about your stepmother? The words escaped before I could stop them. Both men turned to stare at me. Alessio's expression was unreadable. What about her? She was there, in the front row. And she's not blood family. She married into power. I swallowed hard. If your father left you his empire, what did she get? Silence stretched between us. Then Alessio moved, fast as a snake, his hand gripping my chin and forcing me to meet his eyes. Careful, Valentina. Raffaella raised me after my mother died. She's family. And family never betrays family? I challenged, refusing to back down despite the menace in his voice. You just said someone close planned this. How close is too close? His grip tightened fractionally, then released. He stepped back, running a hand through his hair, leaving it disheveled. For the first time since the ambush, he looked uncertain. Marco, add Raffaella to the list. Discreetly. Boss, do it. Alessio's voice was sharp. Valentina's right. We can't afford to assume anyone's loyalty right now. Marco nodded and pulled out his phone, moving to the far corner of the room for privacy. I rubbed my jaw where Alessio had gripped it, watching him pace. His tuxedo jacket was ruined, blood-spattered and torn. His white shirt wasn't much better. He'd lost his tie somewhere, and the top buttons were undone, revealing the hollow of his throat. He looked dangerous, lethal. And something about that danger called to a part of me I didn't want to examine too closely. You should change, I said, needing to fill the silence. There's got to be clothes here somewhere. Bedroom closet. Standard safe house supplies. He paused his pacing. You should change too. That dress. I looked down at what remained of my wedding gown. Torn, filthy, spotted with blood and God knew what else. It had cost more than my father's car, and now it was garbage. Right. I stood, swaying slightly as the adrenaline crash hit me. Alessio was there in an instant, his hand steadying me. Easy. When's the last time you ate? I tried to remember. Breakfast? Had there even been breakfast? The day had started before dawn, preparations for the ceremony consuming every moment. I don't remember. His jaw tightened. Marco, food. Whatever you can find. On it, boss. Alessio guided me toward the bedroom, his hand warm on my lower back. The room was as sparse as the rest of the apartment. A double bed with plain sheets, a dresser, a closet. Nothing personal, nothing lived in. There should be women's clothes, he said, opening the closet to reveal a small selection of basics. We keep safe houses stocked for emergencies. How often do you have emergencies that require women's clothes? Was that jealousy I heard in my voice? God, I needed to get a grip. Alessio's lips quirked. Not as often as you'd think. More for witnesses or informants we need to hide. But I'll take the possessiveness in your tone as a good sign. I'm not possessive. No? He stepped closer, and I was suddenly aware of how small the room was, how large he seemed in it. Then why does it bother you to think about other women in my safe houses? It doesn't. Liar. His hand came up, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. You're a terrible liar, Valentina. Your cheeks flush when you're not being truthful. It's quite charming. I swatted his hand away. Don't you have phone calls to make? Plans to plan? Revenge to plot? All of those things, yes. But he didn't move away. But first, I need to make sure you're okay. Really okay. Not just holding it together. The kindness in his voice nearly undid me. I'd been prepared for the cold, dismissive Alessio from our previous meetings. This version, concerned and gentle, I didn't know how to handle. I'm fine. You threw a knife at a man today, rode in a car chase, watched me kill someone at point-blank range. His thumb traced my cheekbone, careful of the bandage. You're allowed to not be fine. Are you? I shot back. Fine, I mean. Your wedding got blown up. Someone you trust tried to kill you. You don't seem particularly bothered by any of it. I've had practice hiding what I feel. His hand dropped away. It's a survival skill in my world. Show weakness, and someone will exploit it. Is that what I am? Weakness? No. The word was firm. You're the opposite. Your strength I didn't know I needed. He stepped back, creating distance between us. Get changed. Eat something. Rest if you can. I'll be in the other room making calls. He was gone before I could respond, the door clicking shut behind him with finality. I stood there for a long moment, staring at my reflection in the dresser mirror. My makeup was smeared, my hair a rat's nest, my dress a disaster. I looked like I'd survived a war. Maybe I had. I stripped off the ruined gown with more violence than necessary, wadding it into a ball and shoving it into the corner. The vest came off next, leaving red marks on my shoulders from the straps. Then I was in just my undergarments, staring at my body in the mirror. There was a bruise forming on my hip where I'd hit the marble floor, scratches on my arms from debris, the bandage on my cheek. Evidence of the day's violence written on my skin. I pulled on jeans and a simple sweater from the closet, both fitting surprisingly well. Someone had put thought into stocking this place. I wondered how many safe houses Alessio had scattered around the city, how often he needed to disappear. When I emerged, Marco was setting food on the small table. Sandwiches, fruit, water. Simple, but my stomach growled at the sight. Eat, he said gruffly. Boss's orders. Alessio was on the phone, speaking in rapid Italian too quick for me to follow with my limited vocabulary. But I caught certain words. Betrayal, family, blood. I ate mechanically, barely tasting the food. Across the room, Alessio ended his call and made another. Then another. Each conversation more tense than the last. Finally, he set the phone down and crossed to the table, dropping into the chair across from me. We have a problem, he said without preamble. A bigger problem than I thought. Bigger than someone trying to kill you at your own wedding? His smile was grim. Much bigger, because it wasn't just someone. It was multiple someones. A coordinated effort across 3 families to eliminate me before I could consolidate power. The sandwich turned to ash in my mouth. 3 families? The Castellanos, the Vitales, and... He paused, his expression unreadable. The Russos. My family, my blood, had just tried to kill the man I was supposed to marry. No. The word came out fierce. My father would never... Your father is drowning in debt, Valentina. Debt that would be erased by my death. Especially if the wedding never completed. If he could still offer you elsewhere in exchange for canceling what he owes. The room spun. I gripped the edge of the table, trying to ground myself. You're wrong. You have to be wrong. I wish I was. His hand covered mine, warm and steady. But the evidence is clear. Your Uncle Marco was seen meeting with Castellano Capos 2 days ago. Money changed hands. Plans were made. Uncle Marco, the one who'd warned my father this alliance would cost more than money. I'd thought he meant my happiness, my future, but maybe he'd meant something else entirely. What are you going to do? My voice was barely a whisper. Alessio's jaw tightened. Would I have to send a message that betrayal has consequences? You're going to kill them. I'm going to kill everyone involved. His eyes met mine, hard as granite. Starting with your uncle. No. I pulled my hand from beneath Alessio's, standing so abruptly my chair scraped against the floor. You can't just execute my family. Watch me. He remained seated, infuriatingly calm. Your uncle conspired to kill me. Valentina, that demands a response. So arrest him. Turn him over to the police. But don't... I stopped, realizing how naive I sounded. The police. As if they'd do anything to a man under Moretti protection, or under anyone's protection in this world. There has to be another way. There isn't. Alessio stood now, towering over me. You need to understand something. In my world, mercy is weakness. I let your uncle live after he tried to have me killed, and everyone sees it as an invitation. Within a week, there'd be another attempt, and another, until someone succeeds. So it's just violence all the time? Kill or be killed? Yes. No hesitation, no apology in his voice. That's exactly what it is. The strong survive. The weak become cautionary tales. I wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong, that there had to be room for mercy in even this dark world. But I'd seen the bodies in the cathedral. I'd watched him execute the mercenary leader without blinking. Alessio Moretti wasn't a man who dealt in mercy. At least let me talk to my father first, I said, grasping for any delay. Let me hear it from him whether he knew. You think he'll tell you the truth? I think I deserve the chance to ask. Something shifted in Alessio's expression. Not agreement exactly, but consideration. Fine. You can talk to him, but not alone, and not until I have him somewhere secure where he can't run. You're going to kidnap my father? I'm going to invite him to a meeting. Alessio's smile was cold. Whether he accepts or not determines how polite that invitation is. Marco cleared his throat from his position by the window. Boss, we've got movement. 3 cars just turned onto the street. In an instant, Alessio's demeanor changed. The man who'd been arguing with me vanished, replaced by the cold, calculating killer I'd glimpsed in the alley. He crossed to Marco, looked out the window, and swore quietly in Italian. How did they find us? Must have tracked us after all. Marco already had his gun out. We need to move. Back door? Leads to an alley, but they'll expect that. Then we give them what they expect. Alessio turned to me. Valentina, bedroom, now. Lock the door and stay away from the windows. What are you going to do? What I always do, survive. He was already moving, checking his weapon, grabbing additional magazines from a drawer. Marco, you take the front. I'll handle the alley. We funnel them into a crossfire. Boss, there's at least 15 of them. Then we'd better not miss. Alessio paused, looked back at me. Valentina, bedroom. This isn't negotiable. Part of me wanted to argue, to insist on helping somehow. But I'd be a liability in a firefight, a distraction they couldn't afford, so I nodded and moved toward the bedroom. Valentina. Alessio caught my arm as I passed, pulled me close. Whatever happens, whatever you hear, you stay in that room. You don't come out until I come for you. Understand? What if you don't come? His hand cupped my face, thumb brushing across my lips. Then you wait for Marco, if he doesn't come either. He trailed off, and for the first time, I saw uncertainty in his eyes. Fear, maybe, that he'd die before getting answers about who wanted him dead and why. If neither of you come, I finished for him. What do I do? There's a phone in the nightstand. Speed dial 1 reaches my consigliere, Antonio. Tell him what happened. He'll protect you. Why would he protect me? The wedding didn't finish. I'm not really your wife. Because I'm making it an order right now. His voice dropped. And because anyone looking at us can see you're mine, wife or not, that makes you family, Valentina. We protect family. Before I could respond, he was kissing me. Hard, fierce, claiming. Not the chase kiss we'd been supposed to exchange at the altar, but something desperate and raw. His hand fisted in my hair, angling my head for better access, and I gasped against his mouth. Then it was over. He released me, stepped back, his expression once again unreadable. Go. I went. The bedroom door had barely closed behind me when I heard the first crash downstairs. Men's voices shouting in Italian. Then gunfire, so loud it made my teeth rattle. I pressed my back against the door, heart hammering, and tried to remember how to breathe. Don't think. Don't imagine what's happening out there. Don't picture Alessio taking a bullet, bleeding out on that worn wooden floor. More gunfire. Closer this time. I heard Marco's voice, cursing viciously, then Alessio's calm commands. They were holding their ground. The minutes stretched into hours. Or maybe it was only seconds. Time became meaningless, measured only in the percussion of gunshots and the pounding of my pulse. Then, silence. Worse than the noise, somehow. The silence meant it was over. Someone had won. Someone had lost. And I didn't know which side Alessio was on. Footsteps in the hallway, heavy, measured. I backed away from the door, looking around for anything I could use as a weapon. The lamp was bolted down. The dresser too heavy to move. Nothing. The doorknob turned. I pressed myself against the wall, ready to fight if it wasn't Alessio who walked through that door. Ready to do whatever I had to do to survive. The door swung open, and there he was. Blood spattered, favoring his left side, but alive. Very much alive. It's done, he said simply. I launched myself at him before conscious thought could intervene. My arms wrapped around his neck, and I buried my face against his shoulder, breathing in his scent beneath the copper tang of blood. Valentina. His arms came around me, careful of his injured side. I'm all right. We're all right. You scared me, I accused, my voice muffled against his shirt. You made it sound like you might not come back. 15 against 2 aren't great odds. His hand stroked down my spine, soothing. But Marco and I have been in worse situations. Are they all dead? All except one. I kept him alive for questioning. He pulled back enough to look at me. You might want to stay in here for that. It won't be pleasant. I'm coming with you. Valentina. You said I'm family now, that I'm yours. I met his gaze steadily. So I need to see what that means, all of it. Not just the protection and the pretty words, but the ugly reality too. Something flickered across his face. Respect, maybe, or concern. You don't want to see this side of me. I don't want to be sheltered from it either. I squared my shoulders. If I'm going to survive in your world, I need to understand it. Really understand it. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. All right. But remember, you asked for this. The living room looked like a war zone. Bullet holes pockmarked the walls. Furniture was overturned. Blood stained the hardwood floors. And there, in the center of it all, a man knelt with his hands zip-tied behind his back, Marco's gun pressed to his skull. The man was young, maybe 25, with frightened eyes and blood dripping from a cut above his eyebrow. He looked up when we entered, and I saw the moment he recognized Alessio. Terror replaced fear, his face going white. Please, he gasped. Please, I didn't want to. They made me. Who made you? Alessio's voice was conversational, almost friendly. It was somehow more terrifying than if he'd been shouting. I want names. Organizations. Who's paying you? I don't know. I swear, they just gave us an address and said to kill everyone inside. Wrong answer. Alessio nodded to Marco, who struck the man across the face with the butt of his gun. The crack of breaking bone made me flinch. Try again, Alessio suggested pleasantly. And this time tell the truth. Who hired you? The man sobbed, blood pouring from his now broken nose. The Castellanos, Vincent Castellano. He paid us. Said there'd be a bonus if we brought you back alive. Bring me back where? The warehouse on the waterfront. The one they use for their operations. Alessio glanced at Marco, who nodded confirmation. That matched intelligence they already had. Good. See how easy that was? Alessio crouched in front of the man, bringing himself to eye level. Now tell me who else is involved. What other families want me dead? I don't know. I'm just hired muscle. They don't tell us. Another nod from Alessio. This time Marco hit him in the ribs. I heard something crack, and the man screamed. I wanted to look away, wanted to leave the room. But I'd said I needed to see this, and I'd meant it. So I watched as Alessio methodically extracted information, using pain as currency. Please, the man whimpered, after several minutes of questioning. Please, I've told you everything I know. I believe you. Alessio stood, brushing off his knees. Marco. The gunshot was deafening. The man slumped forward, dead before he hit the ground. I stared at the body, at the blood now pooling on the floor, at the casual way Alessio stepped over it like it was nothing more than an obstacle. You killed him, I said stupidly. After he told you what you wanted to know, you killed him anyway. Of course. Alessio pulled out his phone, already making calls. He tried to kill me, Valentina. There's no coming back from that. But he was following orders. So were the men who blew up our wedding. His eyes met mine, hard and unforgiving. I don't care about motives or orders or who was just doing their job. They came for me. For you. That means they die. All of them. The certainty in his voice sent chills down my spine. This wasn't bravado or empty threats. This was a promise, delivered with the same tone most people use to discuss dinner plans. Now, Alessio continued, his attention back on his phone. We know Vincent Castellano is involved. We know he has a base of operations at the waterfront warehouse. And we know he wanted me alive, which means there's someone pulling his strings. Someone who wants to question me before killing me. Your stepmother, I said, the pieces clicking together. You said she's been acting strangely. What if she's the one orchestrating all this? Alessio's jaw tightened. I don't want to believe it. Raffaella raised me after my mother died. She taught me how to navigate this world. He trailed off, unable or unwilling to finish. She's not blood, I said quietly. And you control everything your father left behind. If you died without heirs, who would inherit? The look he gave me was sharp, calculating. She would. As my father's widow, everything would revert to her. So she has motive. She has motive, he agreed. But proof is another matter. I can't move against her without evidence. She's too well connected, too protected by the old guard who remember my father. Then we get evidence. I surprised myself with how steady my voice was. You said Vincent Castellano is operating out of that warehouse. If she's behind this, there'll be communications between them. Records. Something. Alessio studied me with new interest. You're suggesting we raid a Castellano stronghold to find proof my stepmother is trying to kill me. I'm suggesting we do whatever it takes to survive. I met his gaze. You said it yourself. In your world, the strong survive. So let's be strong. A slow smile spread across his face, transforming him from terrifying to devastating. I knew there was a reason I wanted to marry you. We're not married. Yet. He crossed to me, his hand cupping my face. But we will be. Valentina. Once this is over, once I've eliminated everyone who tried to stop us, we'll finish what we started. And this time, no one will interrupt. That's assuming we survive whatever comes next. Oh, we'll survive. His thumb traced my lower lip. Because now, I know your secret. What secret? You're just as ruthless as I am. You just hide it better. His smile widened. We're going to be magnificent together, you and I. Absolutely magnificent. Before I could respond, his phone rang. He answered, listened, and his expression hardened. When? I see. No, don't move on them yet. I want to be there personally. He ended the call, his eyes meeting mine. That was Antonio. He found your father and Rafaela together at the Castellano compound. The bottom dropped out of my stomach. No, that doesn't mean... It means exactly what we think it means. Alessio's voice was gentle but firm. Your father and my stepmother have been working together. They arranged the ambush. They've been planning this for months. I wanted to deny it. Wanted to insist there had to be another explanation. But the evidence was damning, and I'd learned enough about this world to know coincidences were rarely innocent. What do you want to do? I asked, proud of how steady my voice remained. I want to burn their world down. His hand tightened on my face. But first, I want your permission. Because your father is still your blood, and I won't cross that line without your consent. The choice he was offering wasn't really a choice. My father had tried to have Alessio killed, had betrayed him, had put me in danger. There could only be one response in this world. Do what needs to be done, I said. Just make it quick. Alessio leaned down, pressed his forehead to mine. You're sure? I'm sure. And I was. God help me. My father had made his choice. Now I was making mine. Then let's go finish this. The Castellano compound sat on the edge of the city like a fortress, all stone walls and security cameras. As our convoy of vehicles approached under cover of darkness, I counted at least a dozen guards patrolling the perimeter. We were outnumbered 3-1. I should have been terrified. Instead, I felt strangely calm. You don't have to come in, Alessio said from beside me in the back of the armored SUV. You can wait here. No one would think less of you. I would think less of me. I checked the bulletproof vest he'd insisted I wear again, made sure the small pistol he'd given me was secure in my waistband. My father is in there. This is my mess as much as yours. Your father's mess, not yours. His hand found mine in the darkness. You don't owe him anything, Valentina. He sold you to me like property, then tried to have me killed before he had to make good on the deal. I know what he did. My fingers tightened on his. But I need to see him, need to hear him admit it. Otherwise, I'll always wonder if there was some mistake, some misunderstanding. There wasn't. I know. But I still need to hear it. Alessio studied me in the dim light from the dashboard, then nodded. All right, but you stay behind me at all times. You don't take risks. You don't play hero. Understand? Yes. Say it. I understand. I'll stay behind you. Good. He leaned over, pressed a quick, hard kiss to my lips. Because I'm not losing you before I get the chance to marry you properly. The vehicles stopped 2 blocks from the compound. Alessio's men piled out, checking weapons, communicating through earpieces. 23 men total, I counted. 23 against however many Castellano had inside. Marco appeared at Alessio's window. Perimeter is secured. Guards are down. We have a 10-minute window before their next check-in. Then we move fast. Alessio exited the SUV, pulling me with him. Team 1, west entrance. Team 2, through the garage. Marco and I take the front with Valentina. Everyone else knows their targets. The men dispersed like shadows, professionals every one of them. I stayed close to Alessio as we approached the main entrance, my heart hammering despite my earlier calm. The front door exploded inward with a controlled charge. We were through before the smoke cleared, Alessio's gun raised, Marco covering our left flank. The entrance hall was massive, all marble and expensive artwork that would be destroyed if shooting started. Clear, Marco said quietly. Upstairs, main study. Alessio moved with lethal grace, each step deliberate. That's where Antonio saw them. We climbed a sweeping staircase, the sounds of other teams securing the building echoing through the halls. No alarms, no resistance. The Castellanos had relied too heavily on their perimeter security, never expecting someone to breach it so completely. The study door was closed. Alessio paused, his hand on the knob, and looked back at me. Last chance to change your mind. I shook my head. Whatever was behind that door, I needed to face it. He opened it. The study was a study in old-world luxury. Leather furniture, a massive desk, walls lined with first-edition books that had probably never been read. And sitting in wing-back chairs near the fireplace, drinks in hand like they were having a casual evening, were Raffaella Moretti and my father, Tommaso Russo. They looked up as we entered, and I watched my father's face cycle through emotions. Surprise, fear, and finally, resignation. He knew why we were here. Alessio. Raffaella's voice was smooth, unruffled. I should have known you'd survive. You always were harder to kill than expected. Unlike my father, Alessio's gun remained steady, pointed at her heart. Is that what this is about, Raffaella? Revenge for him leaving everything to me? This is about justice. She stood, her elegant dress pristine, her makeup flawless. Your father promised me I'd be provided for, that I'd never want for anything. And what did I get? A monthly allowance like I'm some common mistress, while you, his spoiled son, inherited an empire. I earned that empire. Alessio's voice was cold. I bled for it. Killed for it. What did you do besides warm his bed? Raffaella's face twisted with rage. I gave him 15 years of loyalty. I stood by him when your mother couldn't. And this is how I'm repaid? Cast aside for a boy who runs the family better than you ever could. Alessio cut her off. You want an empire, Raffaella? You should have built your own. Instead, you conspired with the Castellanos, with the Russos, to take mine. My father finally spoke, his voice heavy. It wasn't supposed to go this way. The wedding was supposed to be a formality. You were supposed to be eliminated before the vows were complete. And your daughter? I found my voice, stepping forward despite Alessio's warning hand. What was supposed to happen to me, father? He couldn't meet my eyes. You were always going to be protected. That was the deal. No harm would come to you. Just to the man you sold me to. Bitterness I didn't know I'd been carrying spilled out. Did you even hesitate? Even once wonder if maybe this was wrong? You don't understand the pressures I was under, Valentina. The debts, the threats. The Castellanos said they'd wipe everything clean if I helped them eliminate Alessio before he could consolidate power. So you agreed to kill him at our wedding. The words tasted like poison. And you call yourself my father. I am your father. Tommaso stood, and immediately Marco's gun swung toward him. He froze, hands raised. I was trying to protect the family. Protect you. By making me a widow before I was even a wife. I laughed, the sound brittle. By turning me into collateral damage in your schemes. You would have been compensated. The Castellanos promised. The Castellanos promised nothing. Alessio's voice cut through the room like a blade. They would have killed her too, Tommaso. Witnesses are liabilities. Did you really think they'd let her live after she saw them murder me? My father's face went pale. No, that wasn't the agreement. She was supposed to be safe. Fool. Raffaella's laugh was cruel. Did you really think Vincent Castellano would honor any agreement with you? You were always meant to die too. Both of you. Once Alessio was gone, there was no reason to keep either Russo alive. The casual revelation of how thoroughly they'd planned to betray us sent ice through my veins. Not just murder. Genocide of entire family lines. Why? I asked Raffaella. Even if you hated Alessio, why kill innocent people? Because in this world, there are no innocent people. Her eyes glittered with malice. Everyone is complicit. Everyone chooses sides. Your father chose wrong. As did you. Alessio's finger tightened on the trigger. Any last words, Raffaella? Just one piece of advice, boy. Her smile was poisonous. Watch your back. I'm not the only one who wants you dead. This was just the beginning. The gunshot echoed through the study. Raffaella slumped back into her chair, a neat hole in her forehead, shock frozen on her face. My father screamed, stumbling backward. No! Please, Alessio, please! You betrayed me, Tommaso. You tried to have me killed. You put your daughter in danger. Alessio's voice was eerily calm. There's only one response to that. Alessio. My voice stopped him before he could fire again. Wait. He looked at me, question in his eyes. I crossed to my father, who cowered against the wall. This man who'd raised me, who'd taught me to ride a bike and helped me with homework, and walked me down the aisle toward my doom. Did you know they were going to kill me too? I asked quietly. No. Tears streamed down his face. I swear, Valentina, I thought you'd be safe. You thought wrong. I pulled the pistol from my waistband, the weight foreign in my hand. You sold me. You betrayed me. You put me in the crossfire of your stupid schemes. Please, you're my daughter. I was your daughter. My hand was steady as I raised the gun. But you stopped being my father the moment you made that deal. The shot surprised me with how easy it was to pull the trigger. One moment, my father was standing there, begging. The next, he was crumpling to the floor, blood blooming across his shirt. I stared at the gun in my hand, at what I'd done, and felt. Nothing. No guilt. No regret. Just a cold certainty that this was justice. Alessio was there, gently taking the weapon from my hand. Valentina. He deserved it. My voice sounded distant to my own ears. They both deserved it. I know. His arms came around me, and I leaned into his warmth. But killing them yourself, that changes you. You can't take it back. I don't want to. I looked up at him. They tried to kill us both. They betrayed us. In your world, that demands a response. In our world, he corrected softly, because you're part of it now, Valentina. Fully, completely. There's no going back from this. I don't want to go back. And I meant it. Whatever I'd been before today, that girl was gone, burned away in gunfire and betrayal. What remained was harder, colder. Someone who could survive in Alessio's world. Someone who could rule beside him. We need to move, Marco said from the doorway. Castellano's men are regrouping. We have maybe 5 minutes before they breach our position. Alessio nodded, his arms still around me. Extract team, move out. Burn protocol on the way. As we made our way back through the compound, I heard rather than saw the charges being set. Burn protocol. They were going to destroy any evidence we'd been here, any trace of what had happened in that study. Outside, the night air was shockingly cold after the stuffy interior. I gulped it down, trying to clear my head, trying to process what I'd just done. "Boss." One of Alessio's men approached, blood on his sleeve. "The Castellanos are mobilizing. We need to go. Now." We piled into the vehicles as the first explosion rocked the compound behind us. Then another. Fire bloomed against the night sky, orange and gold and terrible in its beauty. "That should slow them down," Marco observed from the front seat. Alessio pulled me against his side, his hand stroking through my hair. "How are you feeling?" "I don't know." Truth seemed safest. "I shot my father. I should feel something. Guilt or horror or something. But I just feel numb. Adrenaline. It'll hit you later." His lips pressed to my temple. "When it does, I'll be there. Whatever you need, whatever you're feeling, I'll be there." "Why?" I tilted my head to look at him. "Why do you care? This was all supposed to be a business arrangement, a strategic alliance. But you're treating me like I actually matter, because you do matter." His hand cupped my face. "I told myself this was just business, that you were a means to an end. But somewhere between you walking down that aisle and throwing a knife to save my life, it became real. You became real, important, mine. That word again. It's the only word that matters." He leaned down, his breath warm against my lips. "You're mine, Valentina Russo, and I protect what's mine. I cherish what's mine. I'll burn this entire city down before I let anyone hurt what's mine." Then he was kissing me, fierce and desperate and claiming. I kissed him back with equal intensity, pouring all my confusion and fear and strange, terrible exhilaration into it. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were dark with desire. "When this is over," he promised, "when we've eliminated everyone who threatens us, I'm going to marry you properly. Church, witnesses, the works. And then I'm going to take you to bed and show you exactly what it means to be mine." That's quite a promise. I keep my promises. His thumb traced my lower lip. All of them, especially to you. The safe house we returned to was different from the one we'd left that morning. Larger, more secure, tucked away in a residential neighborhood where expensive homes hid expensive secrets. "We'll stay here until the situation stabilizes," Alessio explained as we entered. "My men have secured the perimeter. Nothing gets in or out without my knowledge." "How long will that take?" "Days. Maybe a week." He shed his jacket, wincing as the movement pulled at his injured side. "We eliminated the leadership tonight, but the organizations themselves remain. Someone will step up to fill the power vacuum. We need to be ready when they do." "Let me see that." I crossed to him, gently lifting his shirt to examine the injury. A graze. Painful but not serious. "You should clean this properly." "Later. Right now, I need to make sure our message was received." He was already on his phone, barking orders in Italian. I watched him pace, this man I'd been meant to marry. Strong, ruthless, capable of terrible violence but surprisingly gentle with me. He was right. Somewhere in the chaos of the past day, this had stopped being just business. It had become personal. Later, after Alessio had finished his calls and we'd both showered the blood and smoke from our skin, we sat in the living room of the safe house. His men were posted outside, vigilant. Inside, it was quiet, almost peaceful. "Thank you," I said into the silence. "For what?" "For letting me be the one to do it. My father. You could have stopped me. It wasn't my place to stop you." Alessio's expression was serious. "That was your choice to make, your justice to claim. I understand that better than most. Do you ever regret it? The violence, the killing?" "Every day." The admission surprised me. But regret doesn't change necessity. In this world, you kill or you die. I chose to live. And now I've made that same choice. Yes. His hand found mine. Does that frighten you? It should. I laced my fingers through his. But it doesn't. Mostly I just feel free. Like I've finally stopped pretending to be something I'm not. And what are you? I met his gaze steadily. Yours, whatever that means. However dark that is. I'm yours, Alessio. His smile was slow, dangerous, and absolutely devastating. Then we're going to rule together, you and I. Build something unshakable. And God help anyone who tries to stop us. 3 days later, Alessio called a meeting of the 5 families. I stood beside him in the grand hall of his estate, a building I hadn't seen before today. It was massive, imposing, everything a mob boss's headquarters should be. The families began to arrive at dusk, their cars rolling up the long driveway like a funeral procession. Nervous? Alessio asked quietly. Should I be? These people eat weakness for breakfast. His hand settled possessively on my waist. But you're not weak. You proved that when you pulled the trigger on your father. Word had spread quickly about what happened at the Castellano compound. The murder of Raffaella Moretti and Tommaso Russo had sent shockwaves through the criminal underworld. Some called it justice. Others called it a power play. Everyone agreed it changed the game entirely. They're going to test you, Alessio continued. Push boundaries. Try to find cracks in our united front. Don't let them. How? Stand tall. Meet their eyes. Let them see that you're my equal, not my decoration. He turned me to face him. And remember, you're not just some woman I married for convenience. You're the one who helped me survive an assassination attempt, who identified the traitors, who killed her own father to protect me. That makes you dangerous, Valentina. Make sure they know it. The first family head to arrive was Don Moretti's oldest ally, Giovanni Battaglia, an old man now, bent with age but still sharp as a knife. He studied me with rheumy eyes as Alessio made introductions. So this is the Russo girl, he said, his voice like gravel. The one who turned on her own blood. I turned on traitors, I corrected, keeping my voice steady. My blood stopped mattering when they tried to have Alessio killed. Strong words from someone so young. Necessary words from someone who survived what was meant to kill her. I met his gaze. I'm not a girl, Don Battaglia. I'm Alessio's partner. And I protect what's mine as fiercely as he does. Something that might have been approval flickered in his eyes. We'll see. Pretty words are easy. Backing them up is harder. The other families arrived in succession. The Genoveses, the Luccheses, the Colombos, and finally, the new head of the Castellano family, Vincent's younger brother Marco, who looked at us with such hatred I felt it physically. You murdered my brother, he said without preamble. Your brother tried to murder me first, Alessio replied calmly. I simply responded in kind. This isn't over, Moretti. The Castellanos don't forget. Then remember this. Alessio's voice dropped to something deadly. Your family conspired with my stepmother to kill me. They failed. She's dead. Your brother is dead. And anyone else who moves against me will end up the same way. Are we clear? Marco Castellano's jaw worked, but he nodded. He was outmatched and knew it. The meeting began in Alessio's study, all of us arranged around a massive table. I sat at Alessio's right hand, the position of highest honor, and felt every eye on me, judging, assessing, wondering if I deserved to be there. Gentlemen, Alessio began, recent events have made one thing clear. There are those who believe I'm not fit to lead, that I'm weak, vulnerable, easily eliminated. He paused, his gaze sweeping the table. Those people are now dead. Let that be a lesson. You killed your own stepmother. The Genovese Don pointed out. That's going to have consequences. She tried to kill me, Alessio replied. I'd say the consequences are appropriate. And the Russo alliance? This from Don Battaglia. With Tommaso Russo dead, where does that leave the agreement? Right here. Alessio's hand found mine atop the table, a deliberate display. Valentina has chosen to stand with me despite her family's betrayal. That shows loyalty worth more than any paper agreement. She's not officially your wife, Marco Castellano interjected. The ceremony was interrupted. In the eyes of the church, the eyes of the families, you're not married. Then we'll fix that. Alessio stood, pulling me up with him. Right now, all of you will bear witness. Valentina and I will complete what was started at the cathedral. Murmurs went around the table. This wasn't how things were done. Marriages required planning, ceremony, proper protocols. You can't just, someone started. I can do whatever I want. Alessio's voice was absolute. I'm the Don now, and if I say we're getting married here and now, then that's exactly what happens. He looked at me. Unless you object? Did I object? To marrying this dangerous, complicated man who'd protected me, trusted me, given me power instead of treating me like property? To binding myself permanently to someone who understood the darkness inside me because he carried the same darkness? I don't object, I said clearly. I'm ready. Father Giuseppe was summoned from the chapel on the grounds. He arrived looking confused and slightly frightened, clutching his prayer book like a shield. Father, Alessio said, you're going to marry us, now, with these men as witnesses. But the cathedral, the ceremony, was interrupted by people now dead. Alessio's smile was cold. This is the ceremony. These are the witnesses. Make it legal, make it binding, and make it quick. The poor priest stammered through abbreviated vows. No music, no flowers, no 300 guests in their finest. Just me and Alessio, and 5 family heads watching with various expressions of shock and calculation. Do you, Alessio Dominic Moretti, take Valentina Maria Russo to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. No hesitation. And do you, Valentina Maria Russo, take Alessio Dominic Moretti to be your lawfully wedded husband? I looked at Alessio, really looked at him, this man who'd claimed me from the moment we met, who'd protected me when he could have let me die, who'd trusted me with the darkest parts of his world, who'd become mine as surely as I'd become his. I do. Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Father Giuseppe's voice shook slightly. You may kiss the bride. Alessio pulled me close and kissed me like he was claiming his throne and his queen in one gesture. Fierce, possessive, leaving no doubt in anyone's mind that I was his and he was mine. When we finally broke apart, he turned to face the assembled family heads, me still tucked against his side. Gentlemen, I present my wife, Valentina Moretti. Anyone who moves against her moves against me. Anyone who disrespects her disrespects me. She is under my protection, and that makes her untouchable. His eyes promised violence to anyone who tested that. Are we clear? One by one they nodded, even Marco Castellano, though his expression remained murderous. Good. Alessio's hand tightened on my waist. Now let's discuss how we're going to restructure the family's territories, because Raffaella and her conspirators left quite a vacuum, and I intend to fill it. What followed was 3 hours of negotiation. Territory was redrawn. Alliances were reformed. And through it all, I sat beside Alessio, watching, learning, occasionally offering input that he considered seriously. They weren't just tolerating my presence. They were beginning to accept it. Accept me. When the meeting finally ended and the families departed, Alessio and I were left alone in his study. I collapsed into a chair, exhausted. That was intense. You did well. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed me one. Don Battaglia actually smiled when you shut down Marco Castellano's complaint about the docks. I've never seen him smile. I just pointed out that the Castellanos lost their claim to those territories when they tried to overthrow you. Exactly. Alessio raised his glass. To my brilliant, dangerous wife. To my terrifying, complicated husband. I clinked my glass against his. Are we really married now? Like legally? As legally as anything gets in our world. He drank, then set his glass down and crossed to where I sat. How does it feel, Mrs. Moretti? Strange. Right. Terrifying. I looked up at him. All of the above. Good. He pulled me to my feet. Because I have one more thing I need to do to make this official. What's that? His smile was slow, predatory. Consummate the marriage. Heat flooded through me. We'd kissed, touched, but never. Not yet. Too much chaos, too much danger. But now, in the quiet aftermath of our unconventional wedding, with the families accepting our union. Here? My voice came out breathier than intended. Here. Now. His hand settled on my waist. Unless you're not ready? Was I ready? To give myself completely to this man who'd become my husband, my partner, my equal in this dark world? I'm ready, I whispered. He kissed me then, slower than before, taking his time, savoring. His hands moved to the zipper of my dress, sliding it down with deliberate care. I've wanted this since you walked down that aisle, he murmured against my neck. You in that white dress, looking like an angel I had no right to touch. Good thing angels don't interest you. My hands found the buttons of his shirt. You wanted the devil instead. I wanted you. The dress pooled at my feet, leaving me in just underwear. Devil, angel, doesn't matter. I just wanted you. He lifted me easily, and I wrapped my legs around his waist as he carried me to the desk. Papers scattered as he set me down, his body pressing between my thighs. Tell me if I'm going too fast, he said, even as his hands explored. Tell me if you want me to stop. Don't stop. I pulled him down for another kiss. Don't you dare stop. What followed was claiming in the truest sense. Not gentle or tentative, but fierce and absolute. He worshipped me with his hands and mouth, learning what made me gasp and moan and beg. And when he finally pushed inside me, it felt like coming home. Mine, he breathed against my ear. My wife, my partner, my queen. Yours, I agreed, my nails digging into his shoulders. Always yours. Later, wrapped in his shirt because my dress was ruined, I curled against him on the leather sofa while he stroked my hair. No regrets? He asked. About the marriage or the sex? Both. I considered. 48 hours ago, I'd been a different person. Someone naive enough to think arranged marriages were just business. Someone who'd never killed, never loved a killer, never become part of something larger and darker than herself. Now I was Valentina Moretti, wife of a mob boss, killer in my own right, equally complicit in this world. No regrets, I said finally. It's strange, but this feels right, like this is who I was always meant to be. Good. He pressed a kiss to my temple. Because I have plans for us, Valentina. Big plans. We're going to reshape this entire organization, make it stronger, smarter, and you're going to help me do it. What kind of plans? The kind that requires someone I can trust absolutely. He tilted my face up to his. Someone who understands the darkness but isn't consumed by it. Someone who can match me move for move, decision for decision. Someone who's my equal in every way that matters. That's a lot of pressure. You can handle it. His confidence in me was absolute. You've proven that already. Now we just make it official. You're not just my wife, Valentina. You're my consigliere, my right hand, my partner in building this empire. The weight of what he was offering settled over me. Not just marriage, but power. Real power. A seat at the table in my own right, not just as his accessory. I accept, I said. His smile was triumphant. Then let's begin. 6 months later, I stood in the same cathedral where our wedding had been interrupted. But this time, we were here for a funeral. Marco Castellano had finally made his move against us. It had been predictable, expected, inevitable. And it had ended exactly as Alessio had promised, with the Castellanos eliminated entirely from the 5 families' power structure. You didn't have to come, Alessio murmured beside me. Attending your enemy's funeral isn't required. I wanted to. I watched the mourners file past the casket. I wanted them to see that I'm not afraid, that we're not afraid, because that's what the past 6 months had been about. Establishing that Alessio and I were a unified force, unbreakable, unstoppable. We'd restructured the family's power dynamics, eliminated threats before they could fully form, built something new from the ashes of the old system. And I'd been at his side through all of it, learning, growing into my role as his partner. Mrs. Moretti. Don Battaglia approached, leaning heavily on his cane. A word? I glanced at Alessio, who nodded. This was my meeting to take, my relationship to cultivate. Of course, Don Battaglia. I followed him to a quiet corner of the cathedral. What can I do for you? You've changed, he observed. 6 months ago, you were a frightened girl playing at being strong. Now. He studied me. Now you actually are strong. How did that happen? I stopped pretending to be something I wasn't. I met his gaze steadily. I accepted who I really am. And who is that? Someone who does what needs to be done. I glanced at Marco Castellano's casket. Someone who protects what's hers. Even if it means violence? Especially then. He nodded slowly. Your husband has chosen well. You'll make a good Don when the time comes. Don? Don't play coy, child. Everyone knows Alessio is grooming you to stand as an equal. Some of the old guard don't like it. His smile was sharp. But I do. This world needs more people who aren't afraid to do what's necessary, who understand that power requires sacrifice. After he left, Alessio found me again. What did Battaglia want? To tell me I'll make a good Don someday. I smiled slightly. Is that true? Are you grooming me to lead? I'm grooming you to lead beside me. His hand found mine. This isn't about you replacing me, Valentina. It's about us ruling together. 2 heads are better than 1, especially when those heads think as alike as ours do. You trust me that much? I trust you absolutely. He pulled me close despite the public setting. You've proven yourself a dozen times over. When the Genoveses tried to undercut our shipping operations, you're the one who found the leak. When the Lucchese's pushed for territory concessions, you negotiated them down to nothing. You're not just my wife, Valentina. You're my equal in every way that matters. The words filled something hollow inside me. Not the girl my father had sold like property, not the trophy wife I'd feared becoming, but a partner, valued for my mind as much as my body. I love you, I said suddenly. It was the first time either of us had said it. We'd been too busy surviving, building, conquering to put words to the feeling. Alessio's expression softened in a way it rarely did. I love you too, more than I thought I could love anything. He kissed me, right there in the cathedral, in front of everyone. You're mine, Valentina Moretti. My wife, my partner, my queen, and I'll never let you go. Good, I said against his lips, because I'm not going anywhere. That night, back at the estate, we hosted a dinner for the family heads, a show of strength, of unity. 20 people around our massive dining table, all of them under our control in one way or another. I sat at the head of the table opposite Alessio, a deliberate choice, showing that I wasn't at his side but his equal, and no one objected. Not anymore. A toast. Alessio raised his glass. To family, to loyalty, to the new order we're building together. To the new order, everyone echoed. I caught Don Battaglia's eye across the table. He raised his glass slightly higher. Just for me. Acknowledgement, respect, acceptance. I'd won. We'd won. After dinner, after the guests had departed and the staff had cleaned up, Alessio and I stood on the balcony overlooking the city. Lights twinkled below us. Millions of people living their ordinary lives, unaware of the power structures that govern them from the shadows. Do you ever regret it? I asked. The path we took to get here? How could I regret anything that led to this? His arms came around me from behind. To you, to us, to what we've built together? We've killed people, Alessio, destroyed families, taken everything from those who opposed us, and saved others in the process. His chin rested on my shoulder. The families we eliminated were brutal, corrupt. Under our leadership, there's more structure, more honor. We protect the weak instead of exploiting them. It was true. One of our first acts had been restructuring how protection money was collected, ensuring fair rates, punishing capos who extorted beyond agreed prices. We'd brought order to chaos, even if the methods had been violent. Sometimes I still see their faces, I admitted. The people I've killed, my father, the Castellano soldiers, all of them. Good. His arms tightened. That means you haven't lost your humanity. The day you stop seeing them is the day you become a monster. Aren't we already monsters? Necessary monsters. He turned me in his arms. The world isn't black and white, Valentina. It's shades of gray. We exist in those shades, doing what others can't or won't to maintain balance. That's one way to justify it. It's the only way to survive it. He cupped my face. But if you truly can't live with what we've done, what we are, tell me now. I'll find a way to get you out. Set you up somewhere safe, somewhere away from all this. I almost laughed. You think I want out? After everything? I think you deserve the choice. I made my choice 6 months ago when I shot my father. I made it again when I stood beside you at that meeting. And I make it again now. I rose on my toes to kiss him. I choose you. I choose us. I choose this life, darkness and all. His smile was brilliant. Then we build our empire together. You and I against the world. Against the world, I agreed. Inside, my phone rang. I checked it, frowned at the unknown number. Don't answer that, Alessio warned. But something made me hit accept anyway. Hello? Heavy breathing on the other end. Then a voice, distorted, unfamiliar. Mrs. Moretti, how lovely to finally speak with you. Who is this? Someone who's been watching you rise to power. Quite impressive, really. From frightened bride to ruthless queen in just 6 months. My blood ran cold. Alessio tensed beside me, already signaling to his men. What do you want? Just to warn you. You and your husband have made many enemies, and not all of them are as easy to eliminate as the Castellanos were. Threats are meaningless without action. Who said I was threatening? The voice almost sounded amused. Consider this friendly advice. The game you're playing, the power you're accumulating, it doesn't go unnoticed. And some players aren't content to let you reshape the board. then they can try to stop us. My voice was steel. And they'll end up like everyone else who's tried. We'll see. A pause. Sleep well, Mrs. Moretti, and keep your husband close. You never know when someone might try to take him from you. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my mind racing. Alessio took it from my hands, already examining the number, calling his tech people to trace it. Unknown caller, I said. Someone who knows us, who's been watching. A new threat. His expression was grim. Just when we thought we'd secured everything. What do we do? He looked at me, and I saw the calculation in his eyes. The same ruthless intelligence that had kept him alive this long, that had built an empire from ashes. We do what we always do. His hand found mine. We identify the threat. We eliminate it. And we get stronger in the process. Together, always together. He pulled me close. Remember what I said that first night? You're mine, Valentina. And I protect what's mine. No matter who comes for us, no matter what threats emerge, we'll face them together. Together, I agreed. Because that's what we were now. Not just husband and wife, not just Don and Donna, but partners in every sense. Two people who'd been thrown together by circumstance and forged something unbreakable from the chaos. I'd been meant to walk down an aisle toward a strategic marriage. Instead, I'd run from an ambush straight into the arms of the most dangerous man I'd ever met. And somehow, impossibly, I'd fallen in love. Not with the idea of him, not with the power or the protection or the wealth, but with him, the man beneath the monster, the partner beneath the dawn, the equal beneath the king. Come on, Alessio said, pulling me toward the bedroom. We'll deal with new threats tomorrow. Tonight, I want my wife to myself. Always so possessive. Always. He kissed me at the threshold. And you love it. I did. God help me, I really did. As the door closed behind us, shutting out the world and its threats and its complications, I realized something profound. I'd been ambushed on my wedding day, shot at, betrayed, forced to kill. I'd lost my family, my innocence, my old life. And I'd gained something infinitely more valuable. I'd gained myself. The real self I'd been hiding beneath layers of propriety and fear. The woman who could stand beside a monster and become one herself when necessary. The queen who could rule an empire of shadows. And I'd gained him. Alessio. My husband, my partner, my equal. The man who'd seen my potential for darkness and embraced it instead of running. Who'd given me power instead of trying to control me. Who'd made me his queen in truth, not just in name. Together we were unstoppable. And tomorrow, when new threats emerged, as they inevitably would, we'd face them the same way we'd faced everything else. Together. Always together. Forever.